Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Friday to everybody. The weekend is finally here. Today, what I want to do is some NFL gossip news. This is what's dominating the news cycle. Plenty of college football stuff to come over the next couple of weeks, and you know that's mainly what I cover. But today, it's all about NFL gossip. And when I mean NFL gossip, I do not mean the Illuminati, Bigfoot, NFL is rigged. I've had enough of that. So don't at me unless you really want to at me about it. That's fine. We're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to talk about some gossip about the Saints. We're going to talk about some gossip about the Cowboys. The two are linked. And, of course, everybody's favorite subject, the Steelers and Antonio Brown. And Mike Tomlin, too, while we're at it. But before I do any of that, I want to give a quick reminder. The Patreon contest. I'll put a link in the description of this video to my Patreon page. I'm doing a membership drive on the Patreon page. I'll be doing one every single month, but the one that is going on right now is a short one. So if you sign up for the Patreon page between now and February 1st, which is only about 6 days away, 6 or 7 days away, you will be entered into a contest to win a $50 Visa gift card. You'll go on there, you'll see there's 3 different tiers. If you sign up for tier 1, which is the lowest tier, your name will be entered 1 time for the drawing. If you enter tier 2, your name will be entered 2 times for the drawing. If you enter tier 3, your name will be entered 3 times for the drawing. I will do a live drawing on air once that deadline is concluded, again, which is a very short time from now. And the winner will be getting a $50 Visa gift card. So thank you everybody in advance for that. Also, everybody hit me up on Twitter at Pete Pigskin if you want to come on and talk about college football. If you're a fan of Miami, if you're a fan of Georgia Tech, if you're a fan of USC, the real one, not the fake one in South Carolina, if you're a fan of Oregon, if you're a fan of Washington, if you're a fan of Michigan, if you're a fan of Ohio State, if you're a fan of Nebraska, if you're a fan of Maryland, even if you're a fan of Rutgers or Kansas or Oregon State, I welcome all of it. Hit me up on Twitter. We can work something out. Looking forward to that. All right, so now let's get into this thing here. So the Super Bowl is a week and 2 days away, right? A week and 3 days away, however you want to look at it. If you're counting today, 3, a week and 2. If you're not counting, a week and 2 days. Everybody's pissed off. Of course, the Patriots are back in the Super Bowl. The Saints missed the Super Bowl by the hair of their chin, which has all of New Orleans up in arms. I mean, these guys are ready to burn down the city. They're suing the NFL for some ungodly reason. They're not going to win. They're not they're not replaying the game. I don't know what are you suing them for? For bad officiating? All right, well, let's sue every single NFL game ever in the history of football, and then we could talk about bad officiating. You're not winning it. They're not going to replay the game. They're not going to start the game over and start it at the wherever the yard line was, the 2-yard line where the foul was committed. It's not happening. I realize if you're a Saints fan, you're pissed off. I get it. Time to move on. Now, speaking about the Saints, there's an anonymous source. And we all know how anonymous sources work, right? I mean, it basically means that there's somebody who's either trolling or they have insider information and they're leaking it to the press. This anonymous source is saying that the Cowboys are not only interested in hiring Sean Payton and getting rid of Garrett, whether that's this year or next year or whenever, but also that Sean Payton is interested in taking the Cowboys' job. Now, anybody could say something like this to the media, even if they are a member of the media. And, I mean, the only way for it to be completely disproven or discredited or whatever, or for people to stop talking about it, would be for Jerry Jones to come out and say, no, Jason Garrett's my guy. I'm not looking at Sean Payton. We're riding with Jason Garrett. Or to have Sean Payton say, no, I'm committed to the Saints. I'm not looking to go to the Cowboys. I've got a contract with them. The Cowboys are not on my radar. Now, the interesting thing about this rumor, at least as far as now, as of when I'm making this video, and this could change, I mean, hell, this could change in 2 hours from now or tomorrow, for all I know. But as of right now, the interesting thing about this is you're not hearing either one of those things from either one of those people. So until that happens, we're just going to play Fantasyland gossip. Like the Real Housewives of New Orleans. Or Dallas, even, if that's your thing. Now, what makes this interesting is the fact that Sean Payton was a coordinator when Bill Parcells was the coach and the head coach in Dallas, right? Which Bill Parcells and, of course, Jimmy Johnson, the last ones to win Super Bowls in Dallas, the last ones to make Dallas relevant. I mean, really, they haven't really won anything since. I mean, they've been to the playoffs several times. We all know the history with Romo and all the other everybody else, and now with Dak. They're able to get to the playoffs, but they can't get over that hump. They just haven't been good on a national scale. For America's team, for the most popular, most watched, largest fan base in all of the NFL, they have been massively underwhelming, particularly in the postseason, ever since Parcells and Jimmy Johnson, period. Even Cowboy fans would agree with that, I think, unless you're a complete nut job delusion head case. Now, here's the way I look at it. Maybe this is the dream job somehow for Sean Payton. I mean, in my opinion, I don't know why you'd leave the Saints to go to the Cowboys. What, just because they're the Cowboys? Just because they're America's team? Let's look at the situation that Sean Payton's in New Orleans. Now, in order to understand where I'm going with this, people who you might be too young to understand this. I don't know. Some of you will be, some of you won't be. But the reality is, when I was growing up, okay, before Sean Payton and Drew Brees, pretty much right around that Katrina time. But the years, for 20 years before that, 20, maybe longer, somebody, if you're a Saints fan, could tell me, 25 years, whatever. The Saints were the Browns of the NFL. Ironically, the Patriots were too. But that's a whole other story. I'm not getting into the Patriots today. Let's just talk about the Saints. The Saints were the Browns of the NFL. They were terrible. As a matter of fact, you know, in recent years when the Browns fans come to the games and they have the grocery, the paper grocery bag over the head with the eyes cut out, you know, and the funny faces written on it. That was actually started in New Orleans. They were called the Aints. These guys would come and put bags over their heads to the game, and they were lucky to win a game every year. Maybe one or two games. They were as bad as it gets, man. Like the Browns have been until now. The Cowboys, America's team, you know, Super Bowls, multiple, Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Staubach, Aikman. Of course, you have Hall of Famers like Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin. I mean, the list goes on and on. You have Jason Witten. Back in the day before Jason Witten, you had Jay Novacek. Jay Novacek, for all you real G's out there, you know who I'm talking about. Tight end. Anyway, I mean, I could sit here and list a million different Hall of Famers on the Cowboys. And the Saints were just so bad. But that's the past. And the reality is if you're Sean Payton and you're in New Orleans, you have an owner group. Now, I realize the owner died recently and now his daughter's like running it, but it doesn't matter. Still a much better situation. If you're Sean Payton, money's not an issue. All right, so what? Do what? Is Jerry Jones going to throw $11 million a year at you instead of $9 million? I mean, listen, who cares when you're making that much money? Really, who cares? Number one. Number two, Sean Payton is in a dream situation in New Orleans as a head coach. And I would contend and will continue to contend until he either A, retires sells the team, which ain't happening. B, dies, which probably could happen before any of that happens. Or C, shows me that he's completely changed his philosophy on how to run a team. Jerry Jones has got to be the worst owner in the NFL. No, well, I know I'm going to catch backlash for that. I don't mean he's the worst. What I really mean is that he's got to be the hardest one to work for if you're a head coach. I contend that the Cowboys will not win a Super Bowl until he either A, stays out of football operations and makes himself or demotes himself, is what I mean to say, from being general manager of the Cowboys. He's one of the best owners, one of the richest owners. He's got to be the worst GM in the NFL. This guy, I feel like the way that he acts and the way that he's run that team. We all know that, for those of you who don't know, Jerry Jones was a college football player. He played at Arkansas, and he played with Jimmy Johnson, if I'm not mistaken. They were teammates there. Anyway, that has nothing to do with anything. But this guy's wanted to be a football player or a coach in the worst way his whole life, but he wasn't a great athlete, wasn't good enough to be an NFL player, and wasn't smart enough to be a coach. What he was smart at was making a bunch of money and running a business, in which is, he's excellent at that. No doubt about that. Guy's a genius when it comes to business. But he's not a great football mind. But he thinks he is, though. That's the key to this. He cannot keep his greedy little oily hands out of football operations. And if you're Sean Payton and you're in New Orleans and you've got autonomy, you get to run the football stuff without hesitation or constant meddling from the owner over every little detail about personnel and everything else. To now you're going to go to Dallas and have to have meetings with Jerry Jones in his office every day about who's catching passes better at practice? No. Why would he do that? Why would he do that? Who would want that? That's a demotion, as far as I'm concerned. It'd be one thing if you're an up-and-coming coach who wants a chance in the NFL. I don't know, someone like Jason Garrett, to come in and you say, okay, well, this is my shot. I get to be a head coach of one of the most iconic franchises in the world, if not the most iconic in all of professional sports, in the Dallas Cowboys. I can put up with Jerry Jones bullcrap just to build my resume. And then, of course, after he fires me or I quit, I can go somewhere else and do my things my way. But if you're Sean Payton, you've already reached the mountaintop. You've already reached the peak of success as a Super Bowl winner and a future Hall of Fame head coach. You don't go from that to taking orders from an inept, overzealous, delusional owner in Jerry Jones. You just don't do it. So I don't see it happening. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I mean, hell, I could be completely right. For all I know, that is the dream job for Sean Payton. But if I'm Sean Payton, keep me as far away from Jerry Jones as humanly possible with still keeping me living in the United States of America. Period. I don't know why he'd leave. So we'll see what happens in the next few days. We'll see what they say. So far, nothing from either one of them. Meanwhile, Jason Garrett sitting in a room somewhere sweating. Beads of sweat dripping off of his face. Anyway, on to the next piece of gossip here. I think I made myself very clear about how I feel about Sean Payton going to the Cowboys. That would just be ridiculous. All of our favorite wide receiver in the NFL, I mean, this guy's gold, isn't he? Antonio Brown, you all know who I'm talking about. Obviously, you see the Steelers icon on the screen there. But this is not so much about Antonio Brown because we know who Antonio Brown is. I mean, this guy's a diva. He's all about me. I don't know. He's certainly, I mean, you could talk about maybe DeAndre Hopkins is, Maybe a Julio Jones is. I mean, there's probably about 5 or 6 different guys. You can make a case of the best wide receiver in the NFL. And he's one of them. So I'm not going to argue with that. Everybody knows how great he is. The guy's great. But the guy's a nightmare of a teammate as far as social media and just all his antics go. I mean, he's made it very clear that he wants out of there. I mean, maybe he doesn't want out of there, but for somebody who doesn't want out of there, he sure as hell acts like he wants out of there. I don't know. He's clearly got a problem with Mike Tomlin, the head coach. He clearly got a problem with the quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, who I think Ben Roethlisberger is a prima donna and a drama queen himself. And so the two of those, I mean, you're going to have to pick one, man. If it were me, I'd probably pick the receiver who's younger and more productive than the old, what's that guy? Shrek. That's who Ben Roethlisberger reminds me of, Shrek. Big ogre, overgrown ogre. Hall of Famer, but sorry, man, past your prime. You're not doing the TB12 treatment, we can tell. You're doing the Taco Bell treatment. This guy's past his prime. He seems to piss off everybody that he plays with, too. Le'Veon Bell doesn't like the guy. I mean, have you heard anybody on the Steelers ever praise how much they love Ben Roethlisberger? I feel like this guy's an outcast. But anyway, this isn't about Ben Roethlisberger. This is about Antonio Brown. And more importantly, this is really about Mike Tomlin. Because I learned a lot about Mike Tomlin. I've been a big defender of Mike Tomlin's as a head coach since he's been the coach of the Steelers. They're always there every year. He's won Super Bowls. But the reality is that team just seems to be falling apart with drama year after year. It's getting worse, not better. And at some point, you have to start blaming the coach. It can't always be the players, because guess who controls the players? The coach. That's right. You guessed it. Ding, 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 ding. And the statement that Mike Tomlin made about all this crap that's going on with Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown just goes all over social media and just puts himself out there and just makes the organization look bad day after day after day after day, year after year now at this point. And what did Mike Tomlin say today? Or at least the first I heard of it was today. I think it was today. He said, oh, well, as long as Antonio produces as much as he produces for the team, we can put up with his antics. Well, that right there tells me, sir, that you're not qualified to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It also tells me that the chances of you winning another Super Bowl anytime in the near future, if ever, is slim to none. Period. Because once you start letting the players run the team instead of you, and you're starting to put up with things, what message does that send to the rest of the players? As long as I produce, I could be the biggest jerk off on the team. Not going to get rid of me. There's no rules around here. As long as I'm talented, as long as I produce those stats, baby. Can't get rid of me. Can you imagine? I want you to try to imagine somebody on the Patriots making a statement like that. You can't imagine it, can you? And you know why you can't imagine it? Because it wouldn't happen. Think about back in the mid 2000s when the Giants were winning. What's his face? Was the coach? I'm just drawing a blank. You know who I'm talking about. Do you think he would have put up with a player saying something like that? Anything that Antonio Brown does, do you think they would have put up with that? No. No way. So, that's it, I guess. I mean, I don't know. The only controversy is that I just realized that Mike Tomlin is not as great of a coach as I thought he was. That's the gossip there. And then Antonio Brown, and I made this comment on Twitter in a group I'm in. You guys, the Sports Fury mod group chat. And I said on there, I said, look, man, as a Carolina Panthers fan, like I would take Antonio Brown because we need that so bad, that position. That's something that we've lacked since Steve Smith was there. And, of course, Antonio Brown's even better than Steve Smith was. But the last great receiver, game-breaking receiver that we've had in Carolina was Steve Smith. And we just haven't had it since then. We're obviously had great defenses. Now we've got great running back. Still got a top 10 quarterback, in my opinion, when he's healthy in the league, Cam Newton. One of the best tight ends in the game when he's healthy, Greg Olsen, for all these years. We just haven't had that game-changing receiver. So I was like, I'd be willing to put up with his nonsense in Carolina, But I'm starting to rethink that now. I'm starting to rethink it. I still think I'd take him, though. Again, I'm putting the blame on Tomlin, not on Brown, because when you allow the guy to act that way, then for all this time, then don't be surprised when he acts that way. It's not his fault. I mean, he's doing what you're letting him do. So we'll see what happens. Be interested to see what happens, where he goes. But Mike Tomlin, sorry, bud. You're not cut out to win Super Bowls anymore. Sorry. Anyway, I guess that's it. I'll be back very soon. Go ahead and leave all your comments in the comment section about how I'm wrong about Payton, how I'm wrong about Jared Jones, how I'm wrong about Antonio Brown, how I'm wrong about Mike Tomlin, whatever else too. I mean, I'm sure I'm wrong about pretty much everything I said today. So let me know about that. And if you happen to think I'm right, then also let me know that too. Sign up for the Patreon page between now and February 1st. Have a great day. And have a great weekend too. Pigskin Pete checking out.